Hello everyone, this is Tina with Tia's Treasures, and here I have for you October's 2022 card kit from Simon Says Stamps. I have been procrastinating for quite a while. I am so sorry about that. Well, let's get to this unboxing. So it comes with this wonderful mesh bag. I love using these to store the kits or store other bundles of things that are similar, and they just come in handy for so many things. So we get this in black. Move this out to the side, and then let's pull this all out here. We get candy. Put my little candy dish. We have some deco tags with twine. We get 20 of these. These are like I'm not sure exactly what size they're. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4.5 inches. Not bad size. As you can see, getting ahead of ourselves here. Usually I leave the stamp set for last, but it was right on top. We have this beautiful sunflower fields, and it comes with some wonderful sunflowers. This is all one big stamp. This is a smaller stamp and then a single one, and we've got some sentiments, autumn blessings, just saying hello, hello, thinking of you forever, my friend, missing you, happy birthday, sending sunshine, thank you, and get well soon. So there's a big variety of sentiments with this. Now this stamp set comes with a stencil set, and I believe the stencil is for this giant set. It's a layering stencil, so you're able to get all your colors in without actually having to color unless you want to. So there's two things there. We've got some jute, which it's pretty big. I think I've got some Tim Holtz chipboard tags, so this might work with, because otherwise I'm not sure. It's too big for me to want to use on a card, but you can use it for other multimedia. Of course, we have code word harvest, good until 11/20 for $5 off. So there's that. We have 2 slimline envelopes in cream and black, the mini slimlines. We have Perfection Positively Saturated Inks and Citrine. I have both these colors, so at some point I'm going to be doing a giveaway, and I will get rid of these and that, either together as a set or with other things. I've got a lot of things that I've never opened that I know I'm never going to open. So I will be doing a giveaway at some point in the future. Stay tuned for that. I have this embossing folder. Well, this came with the embossing folder like I have. Well, I do have it now. It's called Fresh Daisies, and I bought the matching dies that go with this. Now, I wasn't sure what exactly florals cut out with these dies until right now, because I had to go looking for this. But it looks like this will cut out the biggest daisy and the small daisy here. That's what it looks like to me. You can see what the embossing folder does. So I believe these dies cut out this and this, because that one would be cut off, and that does not look like it's cut off at all. And this one, I don't think, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's this one here. At any rate, I'm going to probably be using this die for one of my cards. I do love getting the matching dies for some of these embossing folders. It makes the embossing folder so much more versatile to use, because I can use it as a plain embossing folder, or I can like pop up and do other things. So at least when I do buy the matching dies that go with the folders, I do tend to use the folders more. So there's that. So Let's see what else we get with the kit. What color cardstock? I probably should have pulled this out first. We get some really fun inspiration. I had an idea to do a card just like this one when I was like looking, because I did peek at the contents of the kit, and I was trying to figure out what I was going to do, and I thought, oh, I could do something like that. But then when I got to this sheet, I'm like, oh, Sherry Carol beat me to it, and hers probably came out better than mine would have anyway. So it's not to say that I can't try doing something like that again, but know that I did have the idea. If I do that, I was not just cheating off of this sheet, but there's nothing wrong with cheating off this sheet, because that's why they give it to you, because these designers are great. And just the fact that I came up with the same design as Sherry Carol means, hey, maybe I'm getting better at this. Or maybe she was just slacking off that day. One of the two. Anyhow, let's take a look at our cardstock colors. We have this beautiful fall or pumpkin orange. It's called, do we want under the names? Why not? This is called, come on here, burnt orange. And then we have 100 pound is this, well, they gave us a cream envelope. This is ivory cardstock. You can tell next to the white. I had to think about it for a minute. Now this green, which looks really, really dark, but you can see next to the black that it is green. It says here that it's green leaf, but I am not sure, because I would think that that would be the color you got in the kit, but I could be sadly mistaken. I could have either gotten a different color, or this might be green leaf. I'll have to like look into it a bit more. But we know this is Sunshine Yellow. It is beautiful. I love this. Well, it's just called Sunshine, but it's a beautiful color. So we have a beautiful, beautiful fall palette. So let's go make some cards. To start off, I want to show you some different cardstock colors. Now we've got 4 different cardstocks I'm going to show you, starting with the white, which is just regular white Nina, I believe. And then we've got the cream that came in the kit. Now this is Nina Desert Storm right here. It's a nice brown, but it's not as dark as the tags in the kit. I have some that matches the tags, and I believe it might be a Hampton Art color that I got at Michael's. I'm not 100% sure, but it does match the tags 100%, so it may be the same Hampton Arts as the tags. Going a little slow there as I get my thoughts together. And like, this is the second time I'm doing a voiceover, because I was listening to my first voiceover and there were just way too many ums. And if it was driving me crazy, it's sure to drive you crazy. So for this first card, I'm taking the yellow cardstock that came in the kit, and that's going to be our frame. And then I've got some Mere blue cardstock that I already embossed. And I also took some Harvest Moon Distress Mica stain from Tim Holtz. Love this stuff. And I cut out already some embossed flowers from the Embossing folder. Now you can cut these out like fussy cut. They'd be pretty easy to do, I think. So you don't necessarily need to get the extra dies. But I took those flowers and I sprayed them liberally with the Express Mica stain, except for the centers. Well, I sprayed the whole flower, but the centers are some just Copic coloring using a brown marker. And I just think those flowers turned out beautifully. Now you could use just any blue cardstock and yellow cardstock for the flowers. It doesn't have to be mirrored, and it doesn't have to have the mica spray. But if you have a chance to get this mica spray, and I'll leave a link in the description box below, I would highly recommend it. I just love this color. I almost wish I got more of it. I'll have a chance to get more if I want, because it is still available, but I don't know. I might just wait. Make sure I use all of this up first. So for this first card, I went ahead and I glued that emboss cardstock down to the yellow frame. And I thought about popping up these flowers, but there's so much dimension going on already with the embossed background, the blue, embossed mirrored cardstock, and then the texture and the dimension on the little daisies themselves, that I didn't use any foam behind them, and I just glued them down straight. And I just think it's just the contrast between the blue and the yellow. I love it so much. I think it's my favorite color combination, blue and yellow. Well, I've had a blue and yellow kitchen for the 30 some odd years I've been married. It's just, I love that color. The yellow's so cheerful, and I just love the blue. So, no matter how often we paint our kitchen or how often we've moved, I've always gone back to those two colors. Just makes me happy. So for the hello there, I have a small die from Pink and Maine that I didn't think about until I started making this kit, and I saw the little hello, and I was going to originally stamp it out and heat emboss it, but then I thought I might have a hello die, and sure enough I do. And so I just took the white cardstock and used the mica spray to stain that as well. And so that's what I did. But if you wanted to, you could just as easily have stamped out the hello that came with this kit. And if you use mirrored cardstock, I would recommend heat embossing so you didn't smear it. And if you use regular cardstock, you wouldn't even have to heat emboss it. So that's just an idea. And I just love this card. I end up not putting anything else on it because it's got so much shine and shimmering going on just with the mica spray and with the mirrored cardstock, that I think it turns out fine just the way it is. And love. This is, of course, the brightest card I end up doing with this kit, because all the other cards are more fall color. This one is bright with the yellow, but when I saw that yellow cardstock, I was just had the color blue on my mind to go with it, which is why I pulled out blue mirrored cardstock, because I always love the way mirrored cardstock looks when you emboss it. So we are already on the second card, and I'm still talking about the first. For this second card, I took the paper, the one I think's from Hampton Arts, and I'm going to stamp it with some cappuccino ink from Simon Says Stamp, the Positively Saturated. And I'm going to stamp it at the bottom and at the top. And then I'm going to stamp it on a tag. And in hindsight, I wonder if I should have maybe done that on the different, the Nina Solar, not the Solar White, the Desert Storm, so the tag, actually stood out more, or if the way I did it was the better choice. I'm not sure. Now, I stamped this color, and it does end up fading back quite a bit. So if you want the darker flowers, I would use the darker brown. I do emboss it with the mocha, which is a darker brown, on the tag, and so you'll get a better idea of the darker color there. But I just love the way this card is. I think I say that with all my cards, though. Well, okay, maybe not all of them. There are some that I do that I'm like, that one looks pretty dumb, but that's just my opinion. Those are the ones I don't end up sending to anybody. But this one I don't think ends up looking dumb. I think it ends up looking kind of cute. So anyhow, I stamp it in the bottom and the top, and you could see I had that tag out kind of to make sure that my spacing was right. I wanted to make sure that I didn't end up like cutting off one of these flower swags right in the middle. And with the one I end up stamping on the tag, I want to color that one, which is why I made this the way I did. I wanted it to be a little different, so I stamped that and I'm going to color it with some colored pencils. I'm just kind of making sure it's in the same spot as the other two stampings. You know, I didn't want it to be off that much to one side or the other. And just getting it stamped down so I could color it. And by using the colored pencils, you're laying down more color on top of this. Now you could, if you wanted, stamp it again when you're done coloring. You'd have to know exactly where you put that tag, so I wouldn't do that. But these are some colored pencils I bought off of Amazon. I don't know exactly how much they were, but for what I paid, they weren't a bad deal. You know, they're a lot cheaper than like a Prismacolor, but then again, they probably don't put as much color down as like a Prismacolor would either. But for what they are, they do just fine. And so there I just was trying to figure out if I had room to put my sentiment down on the tag, and I did. So I'm using the sentiment, Sending Sunshine, and here I use the Mocha ink. Now, I end up embossing, but I'm not sure at this point whether this ink is going to hold the embossing powder or not. I figure if it doesn't, I'm not going to be out anything. I will just brush it off, and we'll just have Mocha ink without it being embossed. But this positively saturated ink does take embossing powder really nice. And here you can see I actually remembered to use my powder tool for once. It's always a 50-50, you know, shot whether I'm going to remember or not. And at the last second I did remember. And then I used some Simon Says Stamp clear embossing powder. I just love the way clear embossing powder works anyway, because if you get a few extra grains of it here or there, you really don't have to worry about it like you do different colored embossing papers. You can see my heat gun's on there, and it's just kind of skipping away on my glass mat. It's going backwards, so it kind of stopped. It probably got caught up on something finally. And I am going to take that tag and tie a twine bow, and then I am going to pop it up with a little bit of foam tape I have, and I'm going to put it right in the middle there. Now, normally I like to glue down my bows, but with twine I don't think it makes a difference, and I don't think it would look real well. So it's one of the few bows I don't glue down. And now I'm taking more of that mica stain, and you can see where I've got my sentiment and the bow kind of blocked off with some masking, because I thought about this after I'd already had most of the card done. And I'm just doing some splatter on the background with this. And I don't know if I had it shaken up all the way, because my splatter ended up looking more like gold splatter than it did yellow. And I think that might have been because I didn't have it mixed properly. Now you want to make sure these are mixed really good, or they could get clogged. Now in this case, I wasn't using the sprayer, so I don't have to really worry about a clog. But still in all, you know, better safe than sorry. And always make sure you shake these plenty good. Now I'm using some dot runner on the back of my card base, because I want to make sure that, oh, there I go with the ahs and ums again. What's going on is my card at this point is not dry, and I am too lazy to wait until it dries, and too lazy to use my heat gun on it. I didn't want it to warp, so I guess that's not really laziness. Too impatient would be a better word. And so I just put the tape on the card base instead of the card front, so I could get it done. And here I'm showing you how to shake that mica stain to make sure that it doesn't clog. And get it nice and good. So for our third card here, moving on. And I've got some orange cardstock that came with the kit. And I'm going to use the single flower that came in the stamp set. And I am going to stamp that in the center I'm going to use that Cappuccino Simon Says Positively Saturated ink again. You could use whatever brown is your favorite. I just think the fall colors with the fall color cardstock is really pretty. And I think black would be too harsh. So that's why I use brown on all of these cards. And I'm going to stamp that right in the center there. A little bit more towards the bottom because I want to use a ribbon and I want my ribbon to go over the stem. And then I am using the sentiment, thinking of you, and I end up stamping everything in the cappuccino ink. If I had to do it again, I think I would stamp the sentiment in Mocha ink, which is one shade darker, because even though this looks plenty of dark when I first stamp it out, it does fade back enough that I think a darker stamp would have worked a little bit better. But unfortunately, I clean up my stamps and I take them out before I decide. And so there's no going back unless I want to risk smudging or restamp. And I didn't do that because here it does, I think by the time I noticed that it was drying back more than I wanted, I was too far into the card, and it's not that bad. It really isn't. It's just, I think, a preference. So I'm going to cut this down to 3 3/4 by 5 because I want a nice frame going around. And I'm using a card base that I made with the Hampton Arts. My brain isn't working again with the Hampton Arts paper. So I've got this nice frame now. Originally, I looked at it on the white and I'm like, nope, too harsh. And that's when I brought in the Hampton Arts paper. And I'm going to use this ribbon I have with a nice brown gingham. And anytime I use ribbon, I like to cut it so that the ribbon lays flat against the card and I can tape it down flat. And then I tie the bow and glue it on top of that. Now you could bring in the bow from each side of the cardstock. I know this recording is going to be good because my dogs are barking and that's what they do every time I do a voiceover. Yay! So, anyhow, as I was saying, you could bring your ribbon in from either side and tie it in the middle and it would be fine. But this is just the way I like to do it. Now I'm making sure that my ribbon is going straight across without being lopsided, which is why I kind of put the tape down and then I taped it in the back, and now I'm bringing it across the front to make sure it's straight, and then taping it down on the other side. And now I'm putting glue all over the back side of the card. I could have used double-backed adhesive here, but I've got my glue bottle out and that's what I'm going to use. There's no wrong answer. And I'm putting my card front right in what I try to get to be the center of the card, but I've never, I think, been able to center a card front on a card base yet, and I haven't been able to this time either. It's off a little bit to the right. No big deal. So here I'm tying my bow. I could have used rabbit ears, but I'm doing the wraparound method instead. And the trick to getting a good bow is just patience. I think I did this bow 3 times before I got one that I thought I could work with. And I just kind of pull a little bit here and pull a little bit there until I tighten it up. And then I tighten it slowly and, get the ends even. And I always like to use glue dots to glue down my bows. And I also use liquid glue on them, but I do that in the center. You'll see it here shortly. But I put 5 glue dots down because I like to glue down the tails and the bows. And then I like to also put a little glue dot right in the center where I'm going to put the bow. And I also put liquid glue in the center on either side. Like I said, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about here. But I think it gives the bows a little bit more security when I use the liquid glue with the glue dots. With the glue dots, I don't have to worry about the bow shifting while the bow's wet. and I think the liquid glue is just more secure. I could be wrong, but the glue dots I use are small. If I was using a great big glue dot, I think I might be able to get away with it a little bit more. But here I am. I'm going to put down the glue right on either side of where that glue dot goes. And you can see I leave the spot open in the middle so it'll still stick there. And that's what I like to do with bows. And now on this card, I didn't end up putting any spray stain or any enamel dots because I just thought the ribbon was enough. I could see where you could go in with maybe a few enamel dots or something else to give a little bit more sparkle, but I was happy with it in the end. Now for this card here, I'm using some Nina Desert Storm cardstock, and I'm going to end up stamping using the biggest stamp that came with the set. And it ends up not fitting in the corner of the Misty, so I end up moving my cardstock just to the middle of the Misty. I have a adhesive backed sheet in my Misty. That's really helpful. I don't have to worry about the magnet as much if I've got it adhesive backed and sticking down. I put the magnet there just because. I don't think it really did anything, but why not? So this stamp is big. You can use it on an A2 card in portrait mode or a landscape mode, but even then the bottom of it hangs down a little bit, as you can see. If you're going to use it in portrait mode, you're going to lose most of those flowers on the right and left hand side. You'll still get a good portion of them, I guess. It's just you're going to end up not being able to get all of them on there. I think a 5x7 card would probably be your best bet for getting all of this stamp down. But I think this still shows enough of it. It works fine in landscape. So again, I'm using the Mocha ink, or not the Mocha, I'm sorry, the Cappuccino ink on this one. And I'm going to bring in the stencil that came with the kit to color this up. Now I end up using the 2 inks that came with the kit, or I should say the 2 ink colors, and 2 additional colors because I wanted 2 greens, and I do bring in the brown for the centers of these flowers. You could just use the yellow and the green, but I wanted more than the 2 colors. Now right here, as I'm putting this down, I lined up everything perfectly on the left side, but the right side's a little off, which is okay because the way it's off, I end up getting the color outside the lines a little bit, and that didn't bother me at all. What did bother me was the fact that the ink wasn't inside the lines all the way. So I do go back and fix it. And by the time I notice it, I'm into the card a bit, and I didn't feel like starting over. And like I said, it wasn't really that noticeable. It's one of those things, as the card maker, I noticed. If you were the card recipient, I'm not even sure you would, unless you really stared at it. So the colors that came with the kit were the Citrine and the Pearlicious, which were the 2 I started with. And the green just goes over the stems really well here. And then for the centers, I thought about using the Cappuccino, but decided it was already stamped so dark that I just decided to go with the Mocha to give it even a more defined color. And the Mocha just turned out wonderful on this card. Most of my time, I swear, was spent cleaning and taping even more than the actual inking. This went pretty quick. I've got it sped up, I think, double time, so it's not quite as quick as it's shown. And this is probably about where I noticed that I was off a bit, or it might be, yeah, I think I noticed it, or it might be after this. And here I am using the field color on this right here. which is a shade darker, I believe, than the Perfection. Or I might have had that one off by a little bit too. I don't know. And I did notice I just retaped it once, so who knows what I was thinking there. I did most of these cards a week ago, and it took me this long to finally get to the voiceover. It's just been, it's been a crazy month for me, all of October, and it's just now starting to calm down. And here I am, I'm going back over that citrine color and making sure everything's in the lines now on that side. And you got to be careful with this stencil. I don't know if you noticed, but there's a real thin piece of plastic right there on the right that I was just wiping off. And it's real easy to ruin your stencil if you're not careful. And so I've got that done, and I'm happy with it. And I'm going to cut it down a little bit. This is a full size 5.5 by 4 1/4, and I'm going to cut it down to 5 1/4 by 4, and I'm going to put it on a cream colored card base. It doesn't look real cream colored there, but trust me, it is. It's not quite as stark as the white would be. And I'm just trying to decide what sentiment I'm going to use there. And now I'm going to do a little bit more splatter with that Harvest Moon mica stain. And I love this color so much. If you haven't noticed, you can see exactly how bright it is on those paper towels. And so I get my splatter all over the place. And I actually remembered to do the splatter before the sentiment for a change, which saved me from having to mask off the sentiment. And this just turned out really pretty. And now I am going to use our ink, the Mocha ink, I believe, and I am going to stamp out Happy Birthday right in the upper left hand corner. I'm just heating this up a little bit so I don't run into that same problem of the card being wet when I try to stamp or do anything else with it. And so I'm just going to get that Happy Birthday stamped. And it's all fun and games until somebody gets hurt, right? Nah, that made no sense. So anyway, if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. Help the algorithm. I know I'm way behind. I apologize. If you didn't like it, a thumbs up would still be nice for me anyway. And I am so happy you are here. If you wouldn't mind hitting the subscribe button and help me get to my next goal, that would be great. But even if you're not a subscriber, I'm still glad that you were able to stop by and make it this far. I assume you made it this far if you're still listening to me and just didn't skip ahead. Of course, this is a pretty cool card. I wouldn't mind if you skipped ahead, because I could see me doing that if there was just one card I wanted to watch. Now here I am just putting some foam tape on the back of this card. I'm using some foam tape I just got from a Cherry on Top. It's an inch wide foam tape, and it's a little bit low profile, but it comes off, the release paper comes off really easy, and it's not overly sticky like some that'll stick to your scissors. This was nice foam tape, so I can recommend it. And that is it for my card. Love it, love it, love it. Already sent that one out as a birthday card to someone. So anyway, here are the 4 cards. Thank you so much for stopping by. I love you all. And that's it for tonight. I will try to be back pretty soon with another video next week. And that's it. So bye-bye for now, everyone.